Good evening. My name is Tiffany Obb, and this is my v video discussion thread for ethical violations and board discipline. Um, I live in the state of Nevada, and when Googling and trying to find out our current ethical complaints, I was really pleased actually to know that Nevada has relatively few ethical complaints. Um, One of the bigger things that was an issue um, was continuing education units. Uh, and my reaction to that is kind of, you know, with any profession that you are required to continue your education because it's always growing. I've been in education for the last 15 years, and anytime I renew my credential, usually every 5 years, we are required to have a certain amount of continuing education. And a lot of times you get so consumed in the job that you kind of forget that you have to do these, and it's just that last minute, like, oh no, my license is going to get expired. You don't might not necessarily get out what you need to. You're just doing them to get it to check the box. So I think that it just needs to be a little bit more standardized. Instead of, like in education, it's every 5 years you have to have so many. I think the better way to go about it would be every year you have to have this. So you get two, and just so and if it's not set up that way in the state, I think that's going to be a way that I want to do it because that's how I do it in education. After my first renewal, when I had to complete like 20 CUs in 2 weeks. It was an impossible task, and I ended up having to pay a huge late fee. Um, the next thing was dual relationships. Um, and then following closely after, I found having sexual relationships or inappropriate relationships with clients. Um, and being in from the city that I live in, it doesn't necessarily shock me. However, there has to be that line. There has to be that line of professionalism. You wouldn't want to go to a doctor and then get hit on. You have to draw that boundary and understand that it's definitely not worth your career. Um, So, I think, looking at Nevada and then looking at other states as well, I do see CUs constantly popping up there and dual relationships being in those top two. Um, I wasn't able to find exact details on a case in Nevada. When going to the website, it would say like charges, like, and that was failure, to complete CUs or improper, but it didn't necessarily give any details on what happened. Um, it just said, this was the violation, and it was very brief, and it took me like skimming through a lot of the website to find out. Um, we do in Nevada, we are dependent on the ACA code of ethics, but also the marriage and family therapists codes of ethics. We kind of are the counselors are kind of lumped into the same group as marriage and family therapists. Um, and board outcome, there really wasn't any. I couldn't find any like outcome. It just said like disciplined. A lot of it was fine. Um, I couldn't find any like suspension of licenses or anything like that, or anything where they told that. I was assuming that with the inappropriate relationships, that those would be a suspension of licensure, but I couldn't find any information on that. And even I did attempted to call the licensing board, but I unfortunately was not able to get through. Um, um, and counselor impairment is I did find a section where it says that the board will decide if you have any ethical violations, and that's NAC 641A.258. Um, if a marriage and family therapist, clinical professional counselor, or intern violates any provision of this chapter of the NRS or engages in any unprofessional conduct while his or her license is in effect, the board will take disciplinary action against the marriage and family therapist, clinical professional counselor, or intern, including without late limitation taking against the marriage and family therapist, LPC, or intern after his or her license expires or has been suspended. So it does look like the board does take action. As far as impairment, if a counselor is working while impaired, it is a considered an unprofessional contact, and um, and is interpreted as constituting unprofessional conduct. Um, One of the questions that brings to my mind is just making sure that I fully understand what is and what is not um, and ethical, right? I need to understand each scenario because, after watching that video that we did this week, it, some scenarios in there I wouldn't have thought were unethical, um, and then some were very blatantly unethical. So the questions that I have is just to, keep studying and keep focusing and to make sure that I keep myself out of hot water. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.